All right. Okay. So hopefully everyone's in the right spot. Windows 10 for beginners. It's not Windows 7 for beginners. We're not doing Windows 8 for beginners. We're doing Windows 10 for beginners today. And I'm going to dim the lights just a little bit more, Ruth, if that's okay.
You do what you want.
If anyone falls asleep on me, there will be a rude awakening, so don't try it. Cool. So Windows 10 for beginners today. There is an agenda sheet. For those that just walked in, you may not have grabbed it. Ruth or Dr. Chris over there can help you with one of those. There is an agenda sheet, two-sided, that gives you a full breakdown of everything I'm hoping to cover by the end of today. We've got until noon to get through it, and I'm hoping we can do so. I will cover some introduction items in terms of some of the questions that those have that don't have Windows 10 yet, and then we'll get to the meaty stuff of all live demonstration. I'm going to be demonstrating on my laptop, which runs Windows 10, all the different things that I want to cover related to Cortana, the new Start menu, the Windows Store, Microsoft Edge as your web browser, and some of the other enhancements that have been put into Windows 10, and show you what those are all about. Okay? And also for those coming off Windows 7, the new Start menu might be a little shock to you, so I put a double-page cheat sheet together. One side shows you the full breakdown of what the Windows 10 Start menu is all about, what all the tiles mean, what all the sections are, what you can do with the various sections, and the other side is a breakdown that shows you the Windows 7 Start menu and how it compares to where things are in the Windows 10 Start menu. So again, it's a concept that you really want to grasp and learn because it makes your life a lot easier if you're using a Windows 10 system on a day-to-day basis. So that's free. You can take one of those with you and follow along during class, and of course take it home with you for your own system and your own needs. So before I get too far along, I want to introduce myself. We have some familiar faces, a lot of new faces here today, which is always great. My name is Derrick Wlodarz. I have had a good relationship with the Niles Library. We also do a lot with Park Ridge and Linkwood Library as well. I own an IT computer repair / consulting business out in Park Ridge, just next door. And we've been in business since 2010. My colleague Austin Peterson is here. He's actually one of our help desk technicians that's on site with our largest customer that is in the healthcare arena. So he's there on a day-to-day basis, but still a part of our team. And he's going to be helping me out here today. If I'm presenting on something, you have a small question you want to ask offhand, you can raise your hand and pull him aside, and he can help answer whatever it is. So I don't want to derail the main class too much because sometimes some people have long drawn-out questions that just takes up too much time. I'd rather you flag Austin as he can go one-on-one with you if necessary, okay? Goes without saying that if you need any computer assistance or computer help, we are available. We do a lot of residential support and work. That's how I got my start. Nights and weekends of helping people with their computer problems, and it's still a big part of what we do today. Virus removal, computer upgrades, moving data to new machines, anything that can go wrong with a computer, we can help support. So you can feel free to ask myself after class if you have any particular needs that you would need assistance with. Okay? So let's keep moving. I've already gone over how we're going to structure today's class. I'm not going to address that any further. I want to take a quick survey of the crowd and a show of hands. Out of everyone here today, who is running Windows 10 on their primary day-to-day computer? Let's see how this looks. You don't count. We're all in Windows 10 in our company already. So okay, so it looks like 40, less than 50% of the crowd. So not too bad. I've done some other classes on Windows 10 late last year, and we did at Park Ridge, out of 40 people that were in the crowd on that one, we only had our hands showing of about 5 or 6 out of 40. So that ratio is pretty good in comparison. And which of you are running Windows 7 or Windows 8 right now? Probably the majority. And of those, are you looking to move to Windows 10 in a short time frame?
Yeah, don't know.
Don't know?
Not sure yet.
So you're trying to, this is like a bellwether for you to see if this is the right time to move, huh?
I'm interested in security and privacy stuff, which is different in Windows 10, I think.
Okay. Yep, and I'll definitely take some time to address the privacy aspects in Windows 10. And if I don't address something you're looking to hear, be sure to ask me at the Q&A session towards the end, and I will make certain that I address point by point what you're interested in. There was some discussion about some of the privacy aspects of Windows 10, and yes, Windows 10 does introduce some things that dig a little bit deeper in terms of the kinds of data that it looks over on your computer and how it trades that and moves it back and forth between Microsoft servers. But in all honesty, it's no different than what Android and iPhone are doing if you're carrying on one of those smartphones. So if you're comfortable with what those phones are doing, you'll be comfortable with what Windows 10 does.
Some of us put different data on our computer than we would put on our smartphone.
Sure.
I don't do any banking or anything with my smartphone because I don't know enough about the security aspect.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later. That's definitely a good point to bring up. So let's go over some of the basics about Windows 10, specifically for those that aren't on Windows 10 yet. All the ones that are running it already, you're more here for the demonstration. I want to address some of the upfront items about what it takes to get onto Windows 10 and some of those underlying facets. So my agenda was actually made last year towards when Windows 10 was just released, so time is running out. If you are in a Windows 7 or Windows 8 system and you want to make an upgrade to Windows 10 at no cost, you can do it at any time. After July 30th of this year, you'll just be charged for the license. But if you do it before then, Microsoft is going to give away the license to you for free. It's sort of an incentive for you to move on up to Windows 10. So it's up to you. You don't have to do it by that date, but if you don't want to pay for it on your old computer, then you have to make that move by July 30th of this year. That's the cutoff. Microsoft may change its mind and remove that deadline date in terms of the free edition, but they haven't said anything to that regard so far, and I'm not going to sit there and count on it. So July 30th still stands. Go ahead.
Have they said how much it's going to cost after the 30th?
The same price. The price is already out there because you can buy Windows 10 on the retail market. I think it's like $100 for the Home Edition and $150 or $180 for the Business Edition. So the pricing's already out there and published, and you can see what it would cost.
So
Go ahead.
Is there any advantage to purchasing it then versus getting it free in terms of security and protecting your data? Can you pick
In terms of, is there a difference between paying for it and getting it free?
Right. Can you pick and choose? Are you more protected? Can you pick and choose which aspects of it you want? If you buy it.
The only way you can pick and choose is if you're going to go with the Pro version or the regular Home version. In terms of the underlying security facets, nearly everything is the same. Microsoft isn't holding back any major features between the two editions. Besides one big change, the only item is a feature called BitLocker. It's more of a feature to encrypt and lock your hard drive down, which is more so used in the business space these days, which is why it costs what's in the Pro version. But if you don't have a need for that kind of level of security or hard drive, the Home version has everything that you would want as part of it.
So there's no benefit privacy-wise for paying.
There's no change privacy-wise. The only version that has some small privacy differences is the Enterprise Edition, but you cannot buy that on the open market. That's for Fortune 500 customers only. So
you say the professional, the business version has encryption for the hard drive.
Correct.
So there's added security with that.
That is the one difference in terms of security. Yeah. So all of my staff, all of our staff laptops at FireLogic, we run Windows 10 and we use BitLocker. So if our laptop gets lost, no thief could get at the data inside of our machine. So if you really want that, you have to get the Pro version.
Will BitLocker keep people who use CryptoLocker from getting your info?
No.
No?
Two different things. So CryptoLocker can still destroy your system even if you have BitLocker. BitLocker is more of in a case where you lose or you have your laptop stolen and a thief would want to get in and get your data off your system. That's the only thing BitLocker will protect against.
I don't know if you're going to get to this, but if the hard drive is removed from your laptop, is there any mechanism for getting the data off it if BitLocker was used to encrypt it? This may be something that a person would want to do if his laptop dies, but the hard drive is still working.
But the hard drive's still working, and you have saved, and this is, again, getting a little bit into the technical weeds, but there's a thing called a recovery key that when you BitLocker your machine, gets saved or Microsoft forces you to save somewhere to a flash drive to print it out.
Gotcha.
And that is kind of the thing you put in your safe box, your lock box, or your safe at the house. So if the laptop dies but the hard drive's okay, you can put it on any other Windows machine. It'll ask you for your recovery key, and it lets you in, and that's pretty much your key to the safe to get into that hard drive.
That sounds good.
So when we do BitLocker, we save those recovery keys for every situation like that. So it's very critical. If you lose that, you won't be able to get into it.
Thank you.
You'll be at the same position the FBI is right now with that San Bernardino iPhone. They can't get into that phone. So, any other questions about BitLocker encryption or anything like that? All right. Microsoft has said that this is the last version of Windows. So another reason why I'm telling people that don't sit there waiting for Windows 11. I don't think Microsoft has point blank said they're not making another version of Windows. This is the one that is staying for the long haul. Just like Apple, if you buy an Apple system, it runs something called Apple OS X, which came out in like 2001, and they just keep updating it. That's the same model that Microsoft's using now for Windows 10. So Windows 10, for the most part, is here for the long haul. It's here to stay. It's going to change and iterate a little bit in terms of how it looks and how it works, but in terms of waiting for Windows 11, there's nothing to wait for. It's not going to happen. Windows 10 is here for the future. If you're in Windows 7 or Windows 8, doesn't matter what flavor, Home Pro, Home Premium, doesn't matter, you are entitled to the free upgrade. So the only users that are locked out from the free upgrade, if you're on Vista or Windows XP, God forbid, you're not entitled to the free upgrade. You've got to buy yourself a license, but that comes into the discussion of if you're running a system that old, it's time to get a new machine almost anyway. So I really wouldn't hinge my bets, and then we usually don't even recommend when people come in with their computer store office and they say, I'm running Windows XP, can I buy Windows 10 from you? And you put it on, I stop them point blank and say, it's not worth it. The machine's too old, it has too much wear, and it's not a good idea to put Windows 10 on there. So that's the thing to keep in mind if you were looking to upgrade from Windows 7 or Windows 8. As I mentioned previously, Home and Pro are the two main editions that are going to be of interest to you. The Pro version, I already mentioned BitLocker for some of the folks in the crowd that were curious about the hard drive encryption. Pro introduces that. Pro introduces, for business environments, a thing called domain join. If you don't work at a corporate place or a business office where you'd be using that, doesn't matter to you. And it also adds the capability to use something called remote desktop into that system. So if you wanted to access it for free from a remote computer somewhere else, you could dial into it and view it like through a window if you needed to have that kind of capability. So that's in the Pro version as well. Most people here aren't going to care about that, but if you do, you know why you would need Pro. Updates. Here's another important thing. On Windows 7 or Windows 8 and below, you have the capability of pushing updates off and Windows updates and stopping them from happening for indefinite periods of time. That's not possible anymore. With Windows 10, Microsoft is up to position, just like Apple, in that we have to maintain a current level of security on systems that are touching the internet, and with that responsibility comes the need to stay updated. So you don't have to worry about those updates happening. They're going to happen. They're going to download and install on your computer. It's just that now they're more forceful than they've ever been. They're going to happen. If you touch the internet with that machine, those updates are going to start ticking away and start downloading on the system right away. So if you're someone that is very paranoid and very control-ish about the updates that get put on your PC, Windows 10 may not be for you because Microsoft's very strong-armed with updates on it. Go ahead.
When those updates are forced onto your computer, will it take control of the computer, or can you still use it?
You can still use it. You can still do everything you do. My computer runs updates behind the scenes. I don't even know that it did it until it splashes the screen that says, hey, do you want to restart now, or do you want to delay restart till 3 in the morning?
Okay.
And that's really the only thing that it bothers you
when
with.
you go to delay restart, will it allow you to shut down the computer and then restart it later?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
what I do a lot of times. Just shut down my machine for the night, turn it back on, and that's in essence a restart that it would want. So,
Right.
Go ahead.
Hopefully you'll address this, but is there
Yeah.
a mechanism for avoiding collisions where you may decide that you want to update your, say you have Norton Internet Security, and you start downloading an update, what's to stop Windows from kicking in and trying to do an update at the same time? I mean, if you allow a number of software pieces to update automatically when they decide to,
Sure.
then when you first turn on your computer and hit the internet, they may all try to update at once, and that could cause a problem, I think.
Yeah, it could, but in terms of updates that are going to happen for Norton or security software, are going to be quite minimal compared to an actual big amount of Windows updates.
Right.
Norton updates, or security software updates, are
They're-
small in the single-digit megabyte ranges
Right,
compared
they're-
to Windows updates, which are hundreds of megabytes.
Right,
So,
they're frequent but small.
so frequent but small.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally Norton will ask me, do you want to restart your computer? You know, because we're, whether it's to apply a patch or whatever. So when you get into an update situation where a restart is required, there is some mechanism for avoiding a problem where maybe 2 updates or 3 updates are trying to go on.
I have honestly never seen a collision or a problem like that. Windows systems starting with, I'd say, Vista and above, are so intelligent in terms of when updates are loaded, what kind of delays are put in place to prevent them from clashing with other software. I have not seen a system that has been hosed or had issues with security software updating and Windows updating. All the security manufacturers, the big players, already know how to work around and work in tandem with Windows updates, so I never see any issues. Austin here, I mean, you support a fleet of 100+ systems on a daily basis. Updates are running all the time between security and Windows, and have you ever seen anything like that? Yeah, I've never seen it happen.
My experience with that mostly goes back to XP, which I guess is...
XP was a different beast. XP was a
ancient
messy...
history. Ancient
compared to
history.
Windows 10, it was a messy platform, and
Yeah.
you can't compare the two. You just can't. So
Thank you.
I doubt you'll ever have an issue like that. Not a really concern I would really have.
Thank you.
At first run, when you install Windows 10, for those that are interested in the privacy aspect of Windows 10, it hits you in the face when you upgrade to it, or if you get a new computer with it on the first run screen. So if you open up your computer, if you just purchased it or you just upgraded to Windows 10, it's going to prompt you with all the privacy options that you'd otherwise have to go out and hunt and find. So Microsoft, again, knows that there are a lot of us that want to control the privacy aspects, and you've pretty much got slider bars that tells you, do you want this to do this? Do you want this privacy option to be set to this? It's got little sliders. You can turn off all that stuff if you want, including the options to turn off Cortana, which is probably one of the biggest things that is related to the security and the privacy, not the security, but more so the privacy aspects of Windows 10. And you've got the options to turn all that stuff off right at first run. So Microsoft's not hiding it, they're not putting it behind the scenes. When you turn that machine on, it's asking you, hey, are you okay with all these things that are going to be done? And if you're not, turn them off. It's not going to cripple your Windows 10 experience. The only thing that's going to cripple is probably your ability to use Cortana, but if you don't care about Cortana, then it really doesn't matter to you. So I'm going to show everyone what Cortana can do. If you're not interested in it, it doesn't matter to you, then by all means, Windows 10 will work and function just fine without it. Go ahead.
So I have 2 computers, 8.1 and 10 is my work computer.
Sure.
So I'd like to go back into 10 and kind of turn some stuff off.
Sure.
How would I do that?
I will probably adjust that during Q&A to show you what section that's under. It's in the modern settings area. And either myself or Austin could help you with that question a little bit later. Okay? Some general recommendations that I put on here for those that are looking to upgrade to Windows 10. First thing I usually tell people, and for those that come to our office and say, hey, can you upgrade the system to Windows 10 for me? If that machine's older than a Core i-Series system, so older than production of about early 2010, probably not the best idea to put Windows 10 on it. We've done it in some situations. If you're a geeky person, technical person, and you're willing to have a few rough edges around the on your experience, by all means, it'll still function. Microsoft supports systems all the way to like 2005 for Windows 10, so you can do it. It's just, from our experience, what is a good Windows 10 experience and environment? We found that that's the minimum point that you want to be at with your computer. And if you're curious about it, does my machine meet that? You can always ask us before the end of class. Austin and myself can help you make that judgment call. I would recommend making a full Windows system backup or whatever backup software you use, as long as it's a full system image backup, so it's like a stamp in time of your machine. I would recommend doing that. While most Windows 10 upgrades that I've seen where people want it to roll back have been okay, because Microsoft out of the box does put in a mechanism where if you want to go back within 30 days to Windows 7 or Windows 8, you have the ability to do so. It works about 98% of the time. That final 2% of the time where I've seen issues, maybe 1 or 2 instances where it had problems, that's where you want to have your own backup. So you can rely on it to a certain extent. However, I will say, out of every 25 people we put on Windows 10, I would say only one would want to go back or has gone back in our experience. So very, very small number of people have made the return back. Go ahead.
What is a full system backup? Is it just the C drive or what is it?
It's the entire system as it stands at that point in time. So it's everything. Not just a file backup, it's a full backup of the programs, of Windows, of everything on that machine.
Got it. The operating
So,
system, all the apps,
everything.
and your files.
Everything that's on there. If that computer burned today, you'd be able to put the backup back on another system and be up and running. That's what I mean by a full system backup.
Are you going to put it on external drive or what?
Yeah, external drive's probably the best bet. It's going to be the fastest and it'll probably have the most room, so you can do that in a short time span. But you can use a flash drive. You get a nice big 64, 128 gig flash drive that sticks out from the computer. You can do it that way. It's just going to take a little bit longer because those are a little bit slower in terms of saving data too. So, and as I mentioned, you have 30 days. You have 1 full month to revert back. Microsoft provides the mechanism. If you do that upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 8, and you can find it. I don't know exactly where it's at because I only have to tell the person about it one time, so I'd have to find it again myself, but there is a way to revert back that Microsoft says, hey, you don't like Windows 10, we'll let you go back to Windows 7, and you can opt to do this down the road if you want to. Okay? And it's very simple. Most people, even though I put an option over here, there is Austin, it's the media creation tool, right?
Yeah.
Media creation tool, it's a manual tool you can use to upgrade your system, but almost every machine that we've had come in the office where someone wanted to upgrade, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner on your system tray a little Windows flag, and it probably pops up once in a while saying, hey, Windows 10 is waiting for you, Windows 10 is waiting for you, reserve your copy and download now. So it's probably already beating you over the head to do it. And if you don't have that showing, it could very well be an indication that your system is not compatible with Windows 10. Either you have a piece of hardware or software that is stopping the Windows 10 process or the check process from fully completing. So that's probably why you don't have it if you don't see it down there. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if you're also planning to discuss the difference between an upgrade and a clean install. If otherwise, I can ask afterward.
I wasn't planning on it. If you have more further questions about it, I can address it after class.
Yeah.
But very simply, we do clean installs about 50% of the time for people that want to do it, especially for older systems. But if it's a relatively newer system, I haven't seen many issues with the in-place upgrade.
Mine's older and probably it's not running very well. I mean, it's not fast anymore.
If there's a potential where you think there's a lot of malware or junk or gunk behind the scenes, a clean install is always going to be your best bet. It's more labor intensive, it's more manual labor on your part, but it is going to be a cleaner system for the long haul. Yeah. So.
And the media creation tool lets you do that, if I remember.
Media creation tool, you can download that. That lets you create a bootable USB drive or a bootable DVD where you can install Windows, as we always have done in the years past.
Thank you.
So, okay. Go ahead.
Upgrading from 7 to 10, I've done 2 machines already, and I've spent probably 5 hours each doing performance tuning.
Okay.
Is that something you see often, or is that unusual?
That is not a fault of Windows 10. That is more so a fault of whatever was on that system previously in terms of startup entries, additional processes, other software that's running in terms of behind the scenes in the memory at that current time. But I haven't seen anything that Windows 10 specifically introduces that causes performance problems on its own. It's usually the underlying software, the additional hardware, and device driver, applets, and add-ons that cause a lot of that extra slowdown.
Right.
So that's the manufacturer's fault of whoever made that system.
Okay.
So,
There's a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to performance tune.
what kind of things have you been doing? Because honestly, I haven't seen many issues. When we do clean installs, we haven't really needed to do anything like that.
I
But
have a 3-year-old HP laptop with a trackpad. The first thing I noticed when I upgraded was a lag in the mouse. So he would try and move it,
Sure.
and it would be like a 2 or 3 second delay. So I had to roll back the driver update, and then everything worked fine.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the startup things that Windows 10 activates, it was recommended that we shut them off.
Such as what? Such as OneDrive or?
Well,
There's not that many on there. There's OneDrive and I think one other item, but there was not that many. A lot of that stuff you may be mistaking for Windows 10 could very well be manufacturer push
I was just
items.
wanting to get your
Yeah, because Windows 10 doesn't put really much on the system. I've seen what a clean install looks like because we tweak them all the time before they go out, and there's really nothing there for us to shut off. So
Like the internet was extremely slow on one of the machines I upgraded, so there were a bunch of things I had to do in the background. to
yeah,
check.
but again, that could be band-aids you have to put on because of poor drivers that were written from whoever the
Yeah.
wireless card was in there. So most of the time it's manufacturer or a driver problems because those manufacturers didn't put the time or the testing or the effort into putting out good drivers. The nice thing is though, Microsoft does have updated drivers that they're pulling from the manufacturers, and those go through Windows Update for you. So they'll come in, if there's a newer, cleaner driver that's out there, it'll pull automatically, so it'll keep those drivers up to date. So you don't have to, like before, Windows 8 and earlier, you always had to go out and hunt and peck for all your drivers that you needed. Not really the case anymore. And usually those drivers that Windows Update pushes, most of the time, are very clean and tested, and they go through Microsoft's Test Lab Center in Redmond to make certain that you're not going to have issues like that. So not going to say can't happen, because I have seen bad drivers come through Windows Update, but the chances of it now are much reduced compared to what they were in the future. So, go ahead, yes.
So what's a driver?
Oh, sorry, geek-speak going on over here. A driver is very simply a piece of software that a manufacturer writes so that their hardware can work in a Windows system. It tells the Windows 10 how to work with that wireless card or that printer or whatever device that may be. Any piece of hardware needs a driver. If you get an Apple system, Apple makes all those themselves. If you get a Windows machine, it's up to the manufacturers of that hardware to provide those to you. Most of them are built into Windows 10, so you don't have to worry about them, but some things like a new printer you buy in the store, you may have to go out and install that driver on your own or things like that.
And
So
they all
interface
charge
between-
for it too.
What's that?
All those drivers, they charge for
They
it.
do not charge.
Oh, yes.
Who charges for that?
Every
I have
time
not
when
run
I
into one
try
that is
to
charged
do
for
it,
drivers.
they
But
do.
there are third-party websites that I think try to charge you for drivers.
charge.
But you don't have
Those
to
are
get them.
scams. Those are probably scams.
Yeah.
No legit
So
manufacturer
you have to be
charges
very
for
careful
drivers.
what you're putting in because they
You have
all
to be
of a
careful
sudden
where you're going. And again, you need to be mindful of, hey, am I on HP's or Lenovo's website or Dell's website, or I am on, getyourdrivers.com, something like that. So you just got to be careful with where you're going. That's a
right.
self-policing problem you have to, be mindful of where you're heading on the web. Go ahead.
So you're saying that the driver is the interface between the software and the hardware?
Correct. Yes.
And with Windows 10, those will now be taken out of our hands. They'll be a part of the automatic update process. We won't have to go looking for drivers.
You don't have to. You can still manually install stuff if you want to. I am just a very neat freak kind of guy, and I like to always make sure I've got the latest and greatest driver. So sometimes I do go out myself and find it on the manufacturer's website. You can still install stuff on your own like that if you want to, but for the average person, that heavy lifting has been taken away, and Microsoft does it for you in 95+% of cases.
If you install a driver, is it likely that Windows would overwrite that driver when it goes and does its automatic update?
It may. If it's a newer driver that comes out, only if it's newer, Microsoft has the ability to override it with a newer release up through Windows Update.
And for a new person like who's never worked with Windows 10
Yes.
or installed Windows 10,
Yes.
it seems like one strategy that a cautious person might take would be do a clean install and then install applications one by one and basically see how the system is performing, maybe make backups. Is that necessary? Have you
My
found
gosh, I mean, you can.
Have you found that to be
I don't see, Austin, you chime in on what you've seen, but I don't see many issues like that. I mean,
'Cause it's
the amount
not-
of times we run into compatibility problems or problems where a piece of software hoses a system are so far and few in between now that it doesn't justify the time to do that.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Because Windows
Can
10
we
has been in
continue?
development and out there for a year now, counting alpha.
I mean, the
right?
only problems I
Yeah,
see is when people try to go and install that 10-year-old program, that 1998 program that doesn't belong on a modern computer. That's where you're going to run into issues, and that's where I see the most compatibility problems is where people just are putting on software that's way too old and that has been loss of
Please,
support.
can
has
we
been,
continue and ask
been
the
t-
questions later on? Please, can we continue?
That's
with the
fine. I just
program?
wanted to address
Because,
those
we only have
concerns.
2 hours.
I understand. Did you have something related to that, sir?
Same problem. We'd like to get on with the program and maybe
Okay.
hold the questions,
Okay.
the individual
That's
questions
fine.
till later.
That's fine. We'll hold those towards the end. I'm going to skip my section that says biggest changes from Windows 7, Windows 8. You'll see those as we go along here for those that are on that. So I'm going to jump straight into the Windows 10 start menu for everyone. Okay? All right. So this is the standard desktop. Your wallpaper may be different if you're on Windows 10. You can personalize all that just like you used to in the past. But the biggest change you're going to see, especially if you're coming from, well, XP, it's going to be a big difference. But Windows 7, Windows 8, you're going to see a decent difference here in terms of our start menu layout, as well as what we have on the bottom taskbar and how it's structured. So it's, as I tell people, it's a new coat of paint on a familiar product. And let me dim this just a little bit more. We're just a little washed out. If it's too dark, just tell me. So a few basic things that make up the Windows 10 start menu and the taskbar in the system tray, as they call it. Let me So on the left-hand side, I'm actually clicked into the start menu right now. So let me actually click out of it so you see what it looks like out it. So when it's deselected, it looks like this. And on the bottom of your screen, and you can move this if you want, it doesn't have to stay like this. Just like before, you can move your start or your taskbar to the right, to the left, to the top. I've seen all kinds of crazy combinations out there. But by default, this taskbar is meant to be on the bottom of the screen like this. So we have our start button on the left-hand side, all the way on the far left, bottom left. We have a new item. This is probably the biggest radical change that a lot of people may not be used to, and I apologize for those all the way in the back. You may have to stand to see the lower portion of it in class. There is now a combination search bar / Cortana bar. It serves two purposes. If you're using it in Cortana mode, it does everything that you did or that you'd want to do in terms of searching on your computer. So you can find files and websites and notes and whatever you may have saved. So it's your combination search bar. But if you choose to let it do Cortana, it doubles as your, well, Ask Me Anything bar. So you can go ahead and ping questions to it and set reminders and all kinds of different voice commands that you can do, just like with Siri or Android on your mobile phone. Cortana does the same exact thing, and a little bit better in some regards from its Ask Me Anything bar. And I'll show that later on. That's not for now. There's a button here for virtual desktops, and we'll get into that towards the end of class session so you can see what that's all about. You have an area to pin your taskbar items and your programs that you like to use most often. These are the ones that I access on a daily basis. You can change those for yourself if you need to. And then all the way relegated to the right-hand side is where our system time and our standard system tray icons are to show us status and notification information for all the stuff that's running on your computer at any given time. Mine's always very slim because I keep it clean. Some people may have a very long one that extends, and if it's too long, it sometimes gets bundled into a little area, and there's a little arrow that shows over there. So it just depends on how your particular interface is configured, okay? So moving on, if I open up the start menu, the differences that you're going to see are the particular apps you may have installed, where those apps are positioned on your start menu, but in terms of the basic facets of how the start menu looks, any Windows 10 computer is going to have the same. So starting on the upper menu is actually your user icon or user profile bar. It shows you, hey, who is signed into this computer at any given time. Most people are going to opt to sign into a computer with a Microsoft account. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I will say this though, if you want to use any of the modern applications from the Windows Store, you have to sign in with a Microsoft account. There's no two ways around it. If you have no plans on using the new Windows Store and the applications that show in this area from that platform, and you just want to use traditional Windows programs and just browse the internet, by all means, you can freely do so, and I've got people that have chosen to do that. So it's all up to you. And going that route would just be signing in with a local account, just like we've always done with almost every computer you've always purchased in the past. So a Microsoft account is, though, required to use Cortana and to use the modern Windows Store applications. On the left-hand side, below the profile icon that shows your name, you're going to see a list of most used programs over here. And again, that's not a complete list. That's just the programs that I most frequently have open and use on my machine. So it's going to be different for you. If you're using Firefox, if you're using regular Skype, or if you're using a game more frequently, that's going to be higher on the list for you based upon your usage trends. Okay? There's a small area over here that's going to show a suggested item from the Windows Store. I think there's a way to turn it off. I haven't needed to turn it off for anyone yet, so I honestly don't know off the top of my head where to turn it off, but I believe you can turn off that suggested item showing right over there. By default, on your desktop, you're not going to have an icon that says this PC. If everyone recalls the My Computer icon from before, where you'd always consider that your place to hop into your flash drive or go into your DVD drive, it's still there. You can still get it in the settings area. You can still turn it on, but by default, Microsoft doesn't show it. They're all about a clean desktop, less icons, less icons. I still have it because I'm an old school kind of guy like that. But you can get to the same place through My Computer or this PC if you go through this item over here called File Explorer. Takes you pretty much to the same spot. If you bring that up, I'll actually bring it up for everyone right now just so you can see how it looks. It'll bring up the full listing. Oh, not that. That's the settings area. File Explorer. If I bring that up, it's going to bring me over and show me an area that shows me all my frequent folders, my recent files I've had open. And you can hop over to that traditional This PC area just like you're used to. And that shows your C drive, your DVD drive, any media devices or phones you have plugged in, and of course, if you're a business user, any of the drives that you have mapped to your machine as well. So again, if you don't have This PC showing on your desktop, don't fret. You can get to the same spot just by going through File Explorer. I get asked it all the time, and people say, where did my computer go? Well, it's just moved into a different, little different name. Okay? So back in the Start menu, there is a settings area that you can get into over here. All those settings changes in terms of privacy and adjusting your screen and running Windows updates. Over here you can get to the update area on the bottom right hand side. Everything is divided into categories. So it's very similar to how the traditional control panel is set up. It's just a little more user friendly now. And I will say this. One of the gripes I have is that Microsoft still has not merged in all of the traditional control panel items into this area. So what that means for the average user is that you unfortunately still have a area with the traditional control panel that has all the techie gadgets that you used to know and love. Now the good thing is most of these items you don't have to go in here to get. This is really only stuff that a power user is going to probably have to go in and tweak. Most of the items you're going to care about, like privacy, device settings, printers and stuff like that, you can get through the modern settings area. But again, Microsoft does say there may be instances where you have to go into the legacy control panel to see the whole 9 yards of some of those things, like your firewall settings, like your some particular mouse settings, things like that. But more and more of these items are being transitioned and moved into the modern control panel. So this is one of the things that Microsoft's going to be hopefully eliminating over the next year and a half or so on Windows 10. I'm not going to dive into the settings areas. They're pretty self-explanatory. You look at what category you're looking to find an item for, and you go into it and you can adjust those settings on a very granular basis. I'm in the Windows Update area a lot, so I'm in here quite a bit checking for updates and making sure that systems that are going out always are up to date before they leave our office. So this is where we spend most of our time, but again, you can make adjustments for a lot of different things in these various areas for yourself. Airplane mode, VPN, dial-up settings if you're still using dial-up on your home computer. So all those various different areas. My little quick tip to tell you is that because I still haven't learned all the nitty-gritty in terms of where settings are, I find myself a lot more of the time searching for settings. And I search for them. You can search for them right from the little search bar in the bottom left-hand corner, or you can search for them in the settings area right over here. So if you're looking for where to find the settings for your firewall, you can start typing in a search, and it'll bring up all the contextually matching items for what you're searching for. So I tell people, don't spend the time trying to learn every single area in the settings area or other options within the computer. Search for it. Microsoft does a very good job of finding everything you're looking for. I can search for VPN. I can search for date and time settings that I go into quite frequently as well. You can search for display settings. All kinds of different display settings that you can find. So I think searching is much faster and gets more done in a short time span than hunting and pecking through there. But by all means, if you prefer the more traditional look for my category, find it, and go into here, you can do it that way as well. All right, let's keep going on the start menu here. So if you bring this back up over here, I showed you the settings area. If you're looking to turn off your computer, yes, people have asked me, how do I shut off my Windows 10 machine? Go into the start menu, hit the power option, and you have 3 things you can do. You can put your machine to sleep, you can shut it down, or you can opt to restart it. So again, that was a little bit different especially in the way Windows 8 did it, but Windows 7, it was in the start menu over here. It's just moved into a little different area, but again, it's out in the open and it shouldn't be that hard for you to find. If you're looking for your full list of all your installed applications, this might be important for a lot of people. You're going to click on the All Apps area here, and it'll bring up the full complete list of all the applications you have installed on your machine. And it's sorted alphabetically from A to Z, including anything that has any numbers in it. And do know that this list is going to combine your modern Windows Store apps that are installed along with your traditional applications. So right away, someone may ask me, well, what the heck does that mean? What does a Windows Store app look like, and what is a traditional app? Very simply, this is the demo I use all the time. A modern application that you get from the start menu from the Windows Store is something like this, like Flipboard. Let me bring this down into more of a windowed view. These applications, unlike in Windows 8 where they took up the whole screen, you can move them around, you can maximize them, you can make them take up half of a screen if you want. So now you have the choice to do that. But again, this is a Windows Store application. You can tell that from the upper bar, the menu on the top here. You can see it uses a very different interface than what a traditional application does. Like, for example, Microsoft Excel. That is a traditional program. Again, a very menu-driven, very heavy contextual menu interface like this. And the modern Windows Store app is very clean, just a few options. They use a lot of hamburger menus, as they call them, for different settings and things you get into. Because again, these modern Windows apps are meant for being used across all kinds of Windows 10 devices. Not just a full screen computer, but for a phone, for a tablet, on your Xbox. The purpose of these apps is so that you can download them and install them, buy them one time, and use them across any Windows device that you have. That's really the future of where Microsoft is heading with these applications, and that's sort of why they have a more simpler and a reduced menu to make it easier to use if you're using touch in your finger. Because obviously your finger needs bigger buttons and bigger menus than a mouse does, and a mouse clicker does. So hopefully that starts to kick in. And now once we get to the Windows Store, I'll show you what that process entails to get these modern style applications for yourself so you can use them. Okay? But you can still use all the traditional programs that you're used to. Office and QuickBooks and Quicken and TurboTax, all that stuff that you used to install off disk, you can still do that. Microsoft's not saying you can't. It's just that more and more programs as we move forward are going to be going to this universal Windows platform. Go ahead.
I'm not familiar with the term Flipboard. What happens when you, on the right side, click where it says flip? Is this like?
It's like a digital magazine. It's a sample app I use to show off what a Windows Store app looks like. It's pretty much a digital magazine, and you flip through it like a newspaper.
Oh, okay.
That's really what this is. It's a digital newspaper program.
Oh, okay.
And it's a free app you can get on the Windows Store, and I'll show that in just a little bit, okay? So the most important piece of the Start menu, especially if you plan on using the newer Windows Store and the modern apps, is the whole right-hand side experience. And when I say right-hand side, it's this center area over here where all these little icons and live tiles, as they call them, are showing. Now these are all customizable. And you can choose to get rid of ones you don't want. You can choose to input new ones on there based upon what you've installed from the Windows Store. So this is an interface like a tabletop. Think of a tabletop with cards. You can move them however you want them, but you can also resize them to make them bigger. So for example, if I didn't want to have my little icon over here for Microsoft Edge, I can get rid of it. It doesn't have to stay there. All I have to do, and again, since I'm using this on a mouse interface, I'm showing you how to do this with a mouse and keyboard, but the same concepts can apply if you're doing this on a touchscreen interface, in that if you're doing a right click, you're going to hold down your mouse finger your finger on the screen on that tile, and it's going to bring up the same options. So again, for the touch users, especially if you have a Windows tablet at home or a Windows touchscreen computer at home, the same kind of things you can do with just your finger. So if I want to get rid of Microsoft Edge, I can go ahead and right click on it, and I can choose this option that says unpin from start. And it's gone, and I get my space back.
What if you want it back?
If I want it back, I can also put it back. So I can go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find it in the all apps list over here. And blah, blah, blah. I think it's under M, Microsoft Edge. If I right click on that, and I choose the option to pin to start, I can bring it back. And it drops into the lower right-hand corner, I think, by default, or wherever it feels there's open space. But I can hold down my left click on it and move it over to exactly where it was before. And I can move around all my tiles. So
How do you make it bigger?
I can resize it as well. Glad you brought that up. That was my next thing I wanted to mention. If I right click on it, I also have more options here. I can go ahead and I can resize it. So right now, by default, it's using a medium size, but I can change it to be a wide icon, and I can also opt to make it a large icon. Now again, this app is not the best example for why you would want to have a big icon, because there's nothing really that it shows. There's no benefit you get from making it so big other than hitting you in the face. If you like that, by all means, it's up to you.
Curious.
But
Curious.
the apps that are much more realistic to be having in larger sizes are things that present live information, actual live tiles that display information. A perfect example is our weather app that actually shows you more info the bigger it gets. So right now all I'm seeing is just temperature, I believe current temperature, the high for today, the low for today, but I want to see more. I want to see a little bit more of a forecast on my weather icon without having to go into that app every time I want to see that. I can go ahead and right click on it, I can do resize, I can make it a large tile, and you'll see what happens in just a moment. You get a 5-day forecast that shows. Now again, it's different for every single app. Different apps function in different ways. I know the calendar app is going to show you more appointments for your day if it's in big size compared to small size, where it just shows you today's date. So every app has different kinds of information that's going to feed to you. So a lot of people that I work with like to have that weather app so big because they can just hit the start menu, peek at that at a glance, and they see their 5-day forecast without having to go into anything besides their start menu. So it's really nice in that regard, and the weather app is a very good example for that. So again, different apps are going to have different contextual information they're going to show you. Your mail app, if you connect your email accounts to the Windows Store mail application, you'll see more previews. You'll see larger previews of your new email items compared to now where, well, I don't have my mail connected into that app, so it's not showing anything. But if you did, it would show more with the bigger that app gets. So some apps are beneficial to be bigger, some apps just don't deserve the real estate and should be smaller. But it's up to you, and that's the great part about it. You get to choose how that interface looks. It's not forced upon you in any way. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't want Edge showing over here. I'm unpinning that from start. And to move an icon, if it wasn't apparent to begin with, all I'm going to do is left click hold on any icon, and I can drag it to anywhere I want it. And things will move as I move them around. So again, if I want it right in the middle here, or maybe over here, or here, doesn't matter. It can go anywhere as long as I have enough space to leave that tile with how big it is. Maybe my weather is more important. I'll move that up here. I'm a news junkie, so that's going to go here, and maybe my flipboard over here. And it scrunches, so once I move icons, and it's kind of like a Tetris block. If you ever play Tetris, things kind of fit in, sort of like that. It's kind of like a dynamic game of Tetris here, where you're moving stuff and collapsing things to make them a little bit smaller, move them in the right places. So it's pretty nifty in that regard. And all the same concepts I'm showing you about these live tiles and resizing them and moving them is the same exact concept that exists on the mobile side. So if you're interested in doing a Windows phone, and I'll actually bring up my little live phone here. This is the same phone my mother uses right now. If I were to do the same aspects over here with this, that's the nice part about this. The concepts flow between devices. So I can go ahead and hold down my little Xbox icon. I can make it smaller if I want to. I can unpin it. I can move other things around in my interface, and it works exactly in the same manner. So again, learn it once on your computer, and the concept can travel to your mobile phone as well. So that's one of the things I really like, is that it's a common interface that you use across any Windows device you may have in your life. Okay?
Derrick,
Yes.
can you speak to the number and quality of apps with the Windows versus Android?
Yes,
iPhone?
yes. So this is when I talk about how much I love Windows Phone. Everyone always loves to slam me that there is an app disparity, and I'm not going to sit here and say that there isn't. There is. The Windows Store is the newest of the 3 stores. It is the smallest of the 3 stores. But when I say small, Android and iPhone each have about 1.5 million to 2 million apps. Windows Store is at about 600 to 700,000. So are they small in comparison? Yeah, they are smaller. And also the other problem is that a lot of the big name apps, that's the thing that people love to snipe the platform about, like some of the big apps, and there's a few, a lot of them have been being introduced recently. A lot of the big banking apps have brought their apps to the platform, but there's still a few. I think one of my staff members tells me about Snapchat. Snapchat's still not on the Windows Store, but they're going to get there, because there's no incentive for them not to put the apps on there, because every computer in the world will be running Windows 10. Most computers will be running Windows 10. All the Windows phones, all the Xboxes out there, all the Windows tablets, they all have access to the same app store now. So there's so many devices and so many people and users that want to use these apps that there's little reason, and there's less and less reason for manufacturers of these apps to say, it doesn't make sense for me to be on there. Well, how does it not make sense for when you have, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of users across all these platforms? So that's part of the thing of what I tell people. So yes, go ahead and take a look. If you're interested in a Windows device and you want to see what apps are available, use it on your computer, go into the Windows Store, which I'm going to get into in just a second, so you can see what's available and what's not. If the thing that you want is not available right now, you either have to wait a little bit longer, or there's also third-party apps that do just as good of a good job. So, for example, Google really hates Microsoft, and they don't make almost any apps for Google stuff for Microsoft's platform. But the nice part is, like YouTube, when I was on my Windows phone for a few years, there's an awesome app called MetroTube, which is far better than the default YouTube app on an Android phone. And I liked it so much more. So there's a lot of great third-party stuff out there that will beat some of the stock stuff you find on iPhone or Android these days.
What was it called?
MetroTube. It's called MetroTube. It's an awesome YouTube application. YouTube clone. I'll call it a YouTube clone. So let's go into the Windows Store. I showed you how to unpin apps, move the app tiles, how to get rid of them. How do I get new apps for myself? This is part of one of the biggest things you are curious about. All we're going to do is go into the Windows Store. By default, most people's computers will probably have a Windows Store icon showing on the taskbar over here. I got rid of it because I don't need to go into it that frequently, but you can get to it from the bottom taskbar area, probably right around this area between your File Explorer and your Virtual Desktops button over here. Or you could just go to the Start menu and go ahead and hit the little store icon either in the full list here. So Store should be under S, Store. Or you can also find it probably in your Live Tile area here, and it actually is right here for myself. It changes because it's got different apps that they show on it. But I'll make it nice and large so you can see how it looks. It's got a big shopping bag so you know you're going to the store. Okay? And if I click on that, it brings me in to what the store experience looks like. And again, if you've been on the Apple Store or the Android Google Play Store, it's going to be a very familiar experience. It's not that drastically different. It's organized in really much of the same manner. You're going to have main categories. So again, it's not just applications that you can get from the Windows Store. You can download little games or apps, but they're separated into their own sections, so you can get games through here. You can also do music and movies and TV. I actually rent a lot of movies for watching at home on my Xbox right through the Windows Store, and we watch them on our big screen. So it's a pretty nice platform. They have a lot of special deals sometimes for very cheap rentals, like one-day sales and things like that. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested. but the place we care about most is our apps and games area. So if I go into my apps area, which is where it goes by default, if you jump into the Windows Store, it's going to show you some of the top apps. Of course, it's going to show you the more popular applications here. You've got your iHeartRadio, Pandora, which I use quite a bit, TuneIn Radio, NPR has now got an app, and all kinds of other applications. So let's just go LastPass. If you need a password manager, that's a very, very good application. The top free apps, these are probably the biggest apps that almost anyone will be concerned about. At the top of the list over here, Facebook's on there, Netflix, Pandora, Hulu, and a lot of other big names over here. And if I click on Show on the right-hand side, I can then dig into these various sections. So sometimes once in a while I go on here and I just browse through the categories just to see what new big apps are available. And then I can go here and I can go between the top paid programs. So these are all paid apps. I can go into some of the best rated applications and see the full list of them on here. And you'll see a lot of stuff. Well, this is the best rated, but like paid, there are a lot of paid apps in there, just like any of the platforms. But there's also a lot of great free stuff available as well. Weather Channel's got a great app. If you use a Fitbit fitness tracker, they've got an app on there for the Dropbox users. Their app is here. Amazon is pretty good as well. I do a lot of shopping through that app. So like I said, the problem of all the big apps not being on here is becoming less and less of an issue. Yes, there are still some things like Snapchat that aren't available, but that is going to be, diminishing more and more as time goes on. eBay, ESPN, AMC's got an app on here, Shazam. So a lot of different things that you can go ahead and find in the Windows Store. The way I like to use it most of the time myself is to search for things. I go in the search bar and I'll search for something. What's something that someone will want to find? I'm not going to do a prehashed example. What's an app that you may be interested in?
Shazam.
Well,
Oh, is that a pre? Okay.
Shazam was in the list, but if I start searching for it, I can find it, and it's a free application. What's another one that someone was mentioning? Any applications that use or other services? You can search by category as well. I like all kinds of different news apps. You can search for news, and you'll see here in the news category, you've got almost 1,900 apps that are just dedicated to news. If I go into there, of course, it's going to show me the applications that are most popular and best rated. They're going to be towards the top of the list. So like the junky apps that people don't like or they're not as good, they're going to be relegated to the bottom of the list. So it's not like you have to go in and really spend a lot of time in hunting out good programs. Most people have done the heavy lifting for you, and those are going to be towards the top of the list. The Wall Street Journals, the MSN News, Discovery, NBC, Fox News, Sky News, all the major platforms out there are going to be towards the top, so you can find them very, very simply.
Is there more functionality on these apps than the websites they What's the incentive?
Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't.
So what's the incentive of downloading NBC News?
Well, you can go ahead and not only do you get the live tile functionality on your start menu, but you can also go ahead and you can open up that app in either half screen or quarter screen view so you can have it pinned while you're working on stuff. You can do that with a website, but websites aren't formatted to work in quarters or half screens as well as these kind of apps are. So that's the real benefit in that you can manipulate your interface better and do multiple things at once, whereas with a website, you're either on this website or you're on that website. Or you need multiple screens to do what you could get away with on one screen and doing corners and putting apps in corners of your screen. And I'm going to show that later on today of how you can do pinning in Windows 10. It's pretty neat, actually. So,
what does it
go ahead.
What does it mean when an app is owned or installed? I think I know what free means.
So very good question, actually. If it says owned, that means I've downloaded or I've paid for that app at least once in the past. And once you pay for it once, it's yours forever, as long as you don't change Microsoft accounts.
So this is your personal.
This is my personal Windows Store
We don't
account.
have that.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that.
Not yet.
Well, it's going to look a little different for you, but in terms of the results I'm seeing, you'll see the exact same things I'm seeing.
But ours won't say owned unless we bought.
It'll say owned if you install at least once, it will.
No,
So I've
that
had
didn't.
Wall Street Journal one time before, and that's why it says it was owned by
Okay,
me.
I was wondering that too. I didn't want to ask a dumb question.
Yeah, so if it says free, that's something that I have never installed it for myself, but it doesn't cost me anything, so I can get it for free at any given time. If it says installed, it's something that actually is installed on this computer at this given time. So that's how it differentiates and tells you the difference between them. And again, if it has a price tag, you'll see instead of saying free, it'll say what the cost is for that program. Okay? So installing something is very simple. I'm going to go ahead, we'll click on the NBC News app over here. I can go ahead, I can see, it tells me, you know, again, who made the application. It shows me some screenshots of how the application looks, and I can see, well, what am I supposed to expect from this app if I put it on here? So you can get a little bit of a preview. You can go ahead and also see what other people also liked, if they liked that application. If I installed this, more than likely I would be interested in some of these apps as well. I can go ahead and write a review and rate the app if I did or didn't like it. And I can go ahead and read what some people are saying about it over here. It looks like we have a 3.7 rating out of 1,200 people that have reviewed it. So not bad, but you know, the review could be a little bit better, and people will say what things they didn't like about it. So you can say, hey, if there's a particular thing that you see someone wrote about that app, that you know wouldn't like that app, then you can choose just not to install that particular program. But installing it again is very simple. Now that I'm in the interface that shows me the full details for that app, I can go ahead and I can choose to install it. And as soon as I hit install, it'll go ahead and start downloading it. If you look in the upper right hand corner really quickly, there's a 1 icon and it shows me what my queue is like. It'll show me the installation progress for it, and it went ahead and that app is already on my computer. And if I went into my start menu, it doesn't by default put an icon in your start screen over here, so it doesn't mess up your personalization settings. But you'll see here, look at that, recently added on the left-hand side of my start menu, NBC News. And I can go ahead and pin that to my start area if I want. And now I've got myself a new live tile. And I can click on that, and there's my NBC News app. So again, it looks like this app unfortunately was designed primarily for a phone interface. The NBC still hasn't fixed it to work on a widescreen interface, so that's why it looks so thin like this. So NBC's got a little bit of work to do. That's probably why the reviews are not that great. So, but as the manufacturers conform these to work in all the different screen sizes, goofiness like this won't be an issue. And if you recall, when Apple released the iPad for the first 2 years or so, there was a lot of apps that had the same exact problem. As manufacturers went back and redesigned the applications to fit the big screens, this kind of problem went away. So we're going through the same problem that Apple had when the iPad just came out in 2010, 2011.
Now,
Okay?
if you don't like it, how are you going to delete it? You just
Oh,
can't
if
delete
I don't like it, if I think this is a bad app, and I'm going to say this is a bad app, I wouldn't want to keep this app. It doesn't work the way that I want it to. So I'm going to go into my start menu, and I can either do it from the left-hand side here, or just on my personalized area on the start menu over here. I can right-click on it, and I can do uninstall. Or tap and hold with your finger and choose uninstall. And it's very simple. Once I click uninstall, this app and related info will be uninstalled, it tells me. I hit uninstall. A few things happen behind the scenes, and it's gone.
Why does it do that?
It does that because it's going ahead on your computer and it's deleting all the files that app left behind.
There's nothing wrong with the
There's nothing wrong with the computer.
Okay, 'cause it's-
My computer's very fast, and even still it needed a second or so to get rid of all that info. So it's a natural process. There's nothing wrong with the machine.
So everything is uninstalled. There is
Everything
no,
that NBC
there is
put
no
on the computer
residue.
is gone. I
Okay.
can go and get it again if I want to in the future, but it's not left any junk on my system. And that's one of the other nice things about why these newer style universal apps are better than traditional programs, because when you uninstall it, it takes all the junk off the computer.
Excellent.
Traditional programs have a tendency to leave a lot of gunk behind on the computer. These programs, the way Microsoft enforces it, they can't leave any junk behind on your PC. So it truly is simple install, simple uninstall. It's pretty nice.
It's not a recycled thing.
It's not a recycled bin. It's
So
completely off the machine.
So it's best to use the tiles if you can then, right?
I would say going forward, if there is something that a modern program can do, I would say use that as opposed to the traditional version of it. Because going forward, I say 3, 4, 5 years out, these apps are going to be the ones that are going to be primarily used, and less traditional programs are going to be sold and to the public or put out in the public. So Go ahead.
Office will be available as a modern app as well?
Office already is available as a modern app. Microsoft has released the modern version of it already. Same kind of thing you see on the iPad or the iPhone. They have a version like that that's touch-centric, but also works in the Windows Store that you can go ahead and purchase for yourself.
So
It's the first iteration, so it's got some rough edges. It's not doesn't replicate all of what traditional Office does, but I would say by next release, they're probably going to be on par with
So
the
they're gonna
traditional
have
version.
all the version of the Office in the store.
Correct. If you go in there and search for it, you can find it. And some things like I have OneNote. OneNote is a traditional program before, but I've got the modern version of it. So I've got an icon, a tile for it, and I can go in and use it from there if I wanted to. Go ahead.
With Windows 10, do you get anything like Office Starter? I have an older netbook that had
No.
Office Starter.
No,
So you
Office
have to,
Starter is not. Yeah, that's extinct.
So if you want Office, then you have to buy it then.
You have to buy it some way, either the modern version or the traditional version.
And if you have a
to buy it.
license for something old like Office 2007, would that
You
be
can still install it.
Yeah,
you
it
can
would
still
be
install
compatible?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll still work. All right. Any more questions about Windows Store?
Oh, it's great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And again, if you learn how to use it on your computer, you can use the same interface on your tablet as the same interface that exists on the phone as well. So again, it's one experience across all your devices, and that's one of the things I really like about how Microsoft is doing the store experience. Okay. So let's close out of that. And again, if you're asking about Flipboard, Flipboard is a pretty popular app. It is a digital magazine. If you go in, like for example, you choose what sections you want to have in there. Actually, I don't know if they started requiring sign up in the app, but it didn't used to be that way. But once you get signed into it and use the app, it's like a digital New York Times, and it's got different sections, and you can actually flip through it with your finger. If it's touch, you take your finger and you flip it across the screen. It's pretty cool in the touch
so
version.
they ask you to sign in, and they want you to give a password and all that.
Yes.
So can you use the same password and sign in for everything, or you have to keep
So that's an area where I'll say it depends. If that application supports the Microsoft account format, you don't have to do a thing. It'll take your sign in that you already have signed in. Of course. Everything falls.
We can just take that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. If it supports the Microsoft account format, you don't have to do a second sign in anyway. Flipboard, for some reason, still hasn't converted to that, so you have to sign in with either a Facebook account or an actual Flipboard account to use it. But then again, it's becoming less and less of an issue because more apps are just working with the Microsoft ecosystem in that way. So, okay? All right, let's keep moving.
Doing files?
What's that?
You're going to be into files?
Yeah, so we're past that, and actually, no, we're going into Cortana at this point. I'm going to go into a file interface probably in a little bit later on. So Cortana, again, one of the newer features of Windows 10. If you opt out of using Cortana when you turn on your machine for the first time, you're not going to be able to use the search assistant that's on the machine. And if you choose to do that, so I accidentally turned her off just now. Let me go back in.
Can you ever turn it back on?
You can. You just go in, search for Cortana, and turn it back on. So actually, it's asking me this time for some reason. This is kind of the same kind of screen you're going to see. If you choose to use Cortana for the first time, it's going to tell you before we get started what kind of things Cortana is going to dig into in terms of the privacy side of the equation. You can go to the privacy statement, see exactly what privacy terms Microsoft's going to hold for the Cortana service, and you can say, no thanks, I don't want to use Cortana, or I can choose to say, yes, use Cortana. So this is a good example, because this is what you're going to see if you choose to use the service. Okay? I'm going to say use Cortana, and I'm going to turn on my location option here, and let's see, was that everything I needed here?
You have to have location to use Cortana?
I don't think so. It kept bugging me for the settings, so I'm turning it on just so I can keep the demonstration
So
moving,
what's
but I think you can
location?
have it turned off.
What's location?
Location is just specifically if you're using it on a phone, they can just tell where you are.
Oh,
So if you ask Cortana,
right.
hey, show me pizza restaurants nearby, it can search it properly and tell where pizza restaurants you want to find.
It's a map, yeah.
So it's more for mapping
Or
purposes.
being tracked.
Huh?
Our location's being tracked.
Locations being tracked. Yes.
If you turn on location.
if you turn on location. If you don't turn it on, then you will not be able to use any of the voice searches related to geographical items, mapping, anything like that. If I open up my Cortana bar over here in the bottom left-hand corner, and by default, it'll show me some of the things that it thinks I'm interested in. So again, it'll show me some nearby restaurants. It'll bring up the top news for the day. So it's sort of a at-a-glance area that you can go in and find things that you're looking for or things you may be interested in. So look at that. Actually, it knows I'm in Niles, Illinois, and it's giving me the weather. The 5-day forecast, current temperature for Niles. It's telling me when the next Bulls game is, when the next Blackhawks game is. And some of those things I have fed Cortana. So if you've never turned on Cortana before, it's going to ask you some initial questions. What are you interested in? Do you like cooking? Do you like news? Do you like sports? What are your favorite sports teams? And it asks you those things. So when it brings up these items, it's actually for things you care about. So I told it I want to know about the Bulls. I told it I want to know about the Blackhawks. And that's why it's showing me these things now. Go ahead.
Well, this might be a philosophical question.
Yes.
Where's all this going to go, down the road when Microsoft has all this information about us personally? And I also read in the Wall Street Journal that when you have these voice-activated systems, Cortana, Siri, whatever, turned on, that they record everything that you say in proximity of the device.
So I want to address that because that is something a lot of people have asked about, and I was actually paranoid about and curious about. But I'll say this: if you have the voice search services turned on, they are not listening to everything you're saying because it wouldn't be feasible from a internet perspective of sending out data that much at a time for everything that's going on. So it's not feasible from that perspective, and also for battery life. If they truly were doing that, your phone battery would last 2 hours, 2.5 hours every single day. It doesn't happen because it wouldn't be feasible to use it in a way like that. The only thing,
Not today anyway.
not today. That may change down the road, but for all the devices out there today that have voice search, none of them can do that because it's technically not feasible.
So you have to say the device.
You have to say the trigger word that either the device tells you to use, like Siri or Cortana or Google Now on the Android devices.
Don't worry about
And that's all it's listening for is the trigger word. Then it starts listening to what you're saying.
So if you say the trigger word, it's recording your information.
If you say the trigger word, then it starts recording. And I'm going to say the trigger word for Cortana in just a moment to show you how it works on the Windows side.
So Microsoft is recording everything said in the room when you've got that turned on and it's stored in the cloud.
For a short time span. So here's what happens. For a short time span, when you say the trigger word, the device and service, and it works the same way across all the 3 platforms, it's just done in a little different manner. It records like 15, 20 seconds of what's being said until it realizes that you have asked a question or you've phrased a statement or you've asked for finding something. It takes that, manipulates it, sends it off to the search service so that it can find you the answer or the information you want and spit that back over to you. Those commands are not saved and tied to you on their systems. They're pretty much dumped into a big dump truck bucket that said, hey, a person in Niles was looking for pizza restaurants at this time of day, and we showed them these results. Your name is not stored and saved as part of that.
But to your point where you've got the Blackhawks and the Bulls and all that,
Sure.
they know your history, your personal history.
But that's just a preference. That's a preference history. That's, hey, I like the Blackhawks, I like the Bulls. If you don't want to share that with them, you don't have to.
It's not
But it doesn't
safe to
really
go,
disclose anything about me besides my sports team preference.
Don't worry about it. When you get real bad sick and you get ready to die, like Obamacare will come by and kill you off, and then they'll take your body, bring it in cryogenics, and then they can take this. So this is all previous stuff coming up. Don't worry about it. They're gonna tell you.
If you're curious about how that data is,
We were like all born in the era of privacy, and this is like really a big freak out.
Don't worry about it. No more privacy. They're gonna come and assassinate you.
if you're curious about what they're doing with the data, I recommend in the Cortana privacy statement read and see how they're storing and saving the data. But I've done quite a bit of research on it, and I've talked to a lot of other tech experts, and the agreement is there that identifiable information that could personally identify you, besides sports teams and simple stuff like that, that kind of stuff is not being saved on the service. Your name is not being connected to those search results.
Today.
Now
Today, that may change, but today that's not what happens.
Now what happens if you do a family history search? Is that being saved in the cloud instantly?
As far as I know, no, that's not.
Oh, okay.
Can they make these privacy, statements more user-friendly, not this lawyer-friendly?
No, it's written by lawyers for lawyers, so I have no answer to that. I don't know what to say.
No, really, this is.
But that's what has.
That's
if you're
why a lot of
looking for-
people, they don't even read this.
That's why I don't read them. But again, if you are interested, that's the only place you're going to know where and what it's doing with the information.
Wow.
If you want, say yes.
So the trade-off is privacy for the free service. That's what.
Exactly. That's how it is with a free service like that. So if I wanted to launch a search, so let me show you how it is if I wanted to search for something on my computer. And again, because this is a combination searching using Cortana for web-related things and also on my computer. As I was doing earlier, I was searching for settings. If you saw me, I can search for anything on my machine because this is an all-inclusive kind of a search bar. So I use this area to search for display settings all the time. And as you'll see here, it's first searching and telling me what's the best match for what I'm looking for. And these happen to be things on my computer, which are settings areas. Next, it then tells me, hey, a few other items from the settings area. Then it tells me any documents I may have on my computer that has that term within it. And then it starts searching out through the internet and the Windows Store for search results. So when you're doing searches on here, it's expanding your search scope compared to where it just was before on your computer. Now it's bringing in the web for you as well. So instead of having to go to Google like we always used to, you can search for that stuff right over here for yourself, right in the same search bar. So it reduces the amount of time we're wasting of going to different websites. Someone asked about doing a file search. Let me see if I can find this Excel file, quick stuff that I have on my desktop. Let's see if it has that. Quick stuff, yep. I started typing in quick, and as you'll see, it found a folder called Quick Start Guide, and it found my little file on the desktop called Quick Stuff. So there you go. That's an example of how I can search for any file on my computer just by using that search bar down there. And honestly, compared to hunting and pecking for a file, I think it's a lot faster to just search for it in that manner.
It looks as though you might be able to do a backup by, like you do on Windows 7, by typing in backup, and it will lead you to the.
No difference. Yeah. I mean, if I
And
typed in
this-
backup, it'll bring up the backup.
And Windows 10 still has a system imaging utility that you can use.
Yeah, right there. Backup and restore.
Okay, good.
So it says Windows 7 in parentheses. That's just because the tool is the same as what Windows 7 came with. It hasn't really changed much. It's as good as they can make it, I guess.
It seems like it's pretty useful.
It's a decent tool. The only problem with it is that it's very manual intensive in terms of you have to force it to do what you want. There's some other ones out there that are easier in terms of automating it for you. But as far as a basic backup program, it gets the job done. It works very well. So, okay. So let's go ahead and I want to show you some of the Cortana specific items before we move ahead here. This is really what makes Cortana, the service, shine. If you don't care about doing voice searches in this manner, this is really not going to be helpful for you. But I actually, in the back of our agenda, put the full list of, well, I don't know if it's complete, but it's a pretty complete list of all the different kind of commands that you can do with Cortana. If you print it out, it's about a 10-page document of all the different things you can ask it. Out yet that probably you'd be able to try. So, and this list is growing and growing all the time. So let's just give it a quick sample and try it just so you can see what it's like. So let me see if I can trigger it. I don't know if I have the trigger word option turned on, but let's see if this works.
Were you at common voice commands?
No, I have a paper copy because it's like 10 pages. I didn't print this out. If you want the copy of all the Cortana commands, I put it on the further learning resources area in the back, list of Cortana voice commands. And you can go to the website yourself and see exactly what I'm reading from right now. So let's try a few things here. Hey Cortana, show me today's news.
Here are today's top headlines. The first headline from CNN is...
Here are today's top headlines. The first headline from CNN is A Tale of Two Brussels.
Reformatted ability to read out from, but news is an easy one that always does. Weather is another one that it can speak to very, very nicely.
It's going to recognize anyone's voice.
It will, yeah. So if you say what I said, the H-E-Y Cortana, it'll start listening for what you're saying.
So you remember that one called the Dragon Dragon
Yes,
program.
yeah.
And he had to get you.
Naturally speaking, Dragon.
Yeah, and that was
So that's a
hard
voice
program.
transcription program
That
that's
was-
still out there.
I know, but it was very hard to
It's
operate
very hard.
because it took you so long to give him 8 hours of your voice.
Well, but again, that program was used to sit there and type out whole Word documents.
Right, but
Cortana's not doing that.
This will do Word documents.
But Cortana's pretty smart. Cortana doesn't even need to be trained much. I turned it on for the first time,
No
and
training.
it pretty much picked me up pretty well.
Wow.
They say in some instances, if you have a thicker accent or a little tougher to understand, my Midwestern clean accent is very easy for it.
Okay.
But for most people that I've seen try it, it's
And
usually
what
pretty
will
accurate.
she say if she doesn't understand you?
It'll bring up an error message that
Okay.
it'll probably just like say gobbledygook on the little area where it's.
Okay.
If you look here, when I do my next search, watch what happens here. It's actually scribbling letters as it's recognizing what I'm saying.
Okay.
And if it catches it, it'll type out exactly what I'm saying. So if you don't want to do the voice search option and don't want to speak it out, you can just type out the same exact thing. And it works the same way. It's just, I think it's a little cooler for it to recognize what you're saying. So, but let me try the weather one so you can see another one here.
Oh, God, deep southern drawl there, son.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I hit the microphone. There's a third way to do it. You can hit the microphone and force it to start listening to you. So that's the third option. But let's do it the automated way. Hey Cortana, show me today's weather.
The forecast shows partly sunny skies with a high of 52 and a low of 44.
The forecast shows partly sunny skies with a high of
Forecast,
52
you can use
and a
this
low
for all
of
kinds different things.
44.
I can do conversions on here. I've used this to, we'll do a sample conversion here in terms of currency. Hey Cortana, convert $100 to Canadian.
100 US dollars equals 132.80
So
Canadian
common
dollars.
conversions that you're doing.
100 US dollars equals
Easy to spit them out to Cortana and have
132.80
her,
Canadian
read those
dollars.
back to you as opposed to searching for those online.
Cortana.
If you want to use the automated way of how it just listens to you and plugs it in. If you want to hit the microphone icon and force it, it does the same exact thing. It's just not listening for your voice and triggering it when you want it to. But it works the same exact way otherwise.
Can you configure it, or is it configured to be operable when your screensaver is on? In other words,
I have never tried that yet. I couldn't tell you.
a person might want it not to be operative when his screen is locked.
You'd have to try that. I've never
Okay.
honestly done that. I don't see screensavers in use as much anymore, so I just don't have much experience with that. But I would try it. I would try
If
it.
you're in a public-
My thought would be no, because when a screensaver is on, usually that's on a locked screen, so you can't get into it. So my guess is no.
If you were at Starbucks or something and you
Yeah.
were distracted, you might.
Yeah. Yeah. No, very true. I'll try one other one. Let's try this. It's not on my list here, but I'm going to try to ask it. Who is the mayor of Chicago, Illinois? Hey, Cortana. Who is the mayor of Chicago, Illinois? So for that one, it did have a prehashed way of responding to you or reading it out. So what it does is it brings you out to a search result that brings you over to the same kind of results you'd get if you went to Google or Bing.com and just searched for it. So sometimes it can't make it nice and pretty and talk to you. And this is how it looks like when it doesn't do that. Okay?
Hey there.
Yes.
Ask me to sing you a lullaby.
Hey Cortana, sing me a lullaby.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I want.
All right, that was cute.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I want.
Shutting off Cortana listening.
Cortana has already stopped listening after it presents you with the answer to what you asked.
Okay.
So it's not listening any further. It stops listening as soon as the voice recognition little gobbledygook stops twisting in the search bar. After that point, it's not listening anymore.
Because it got covered over by the result, and I couldn't tell whether it had gone off or not.
No, it stops immediately once it realizes there's a question or a phrase being asked of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Yes,
yes.
the Cortana. What does the Cortana mean?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's not on my list, so let's see. Hey, Cortana. What does Cortana mean?
We tested it with baristas. Vanilla latte for Cortana. Sounds great, don't you think?
We tested it with baristas. Vanilla latte for Cortana. Sounds great, don't you think?
Well, there you go.
Yes.
She thinks it's something different. So.
Yes, no, it is. If you go into that, it's a sword edge.
So that's Cortana. Again, if you've used the Siri, if you use Google now on an Android phone, you're used to what the whole concept's about. It's just that we've never been able to do it on our computer, and now we can. Any Windows 10 computer can do this, even if you don't have a microphone built into your computer. You can type in what you want to do, what you want Cortana to do, and it'll still bring up the same results for you. So you don't have to speak to it to have it work in the same manner. Okay? So it's pretty neat. But let's keep moving. Microsoft Edge. For those of you that used to use Internet Explorer on your computer, it unfortunately is still available for compatibility purposes, but Microsoft doesn't intend us to be using, doesn't intend for you to be using Internet Explorer on your computer for day-to-day usage. The new browser, if you choose to use it, by all means, if you like Firefox, if you like Chrome better, you're not telling you can't use those, but built into Windows 10, you have a web browser called Microsoft Edge.
Derrick,
Yes.
what browser has the most privacy protection?
The most privacy protection. Awesome. Can we answer that?
Is Cortana.
That's Cortana.
Es Cortana.
You got a cute answer.
I don't think she'd have an answer for that one.
That's how you Edge.
She probably would say Edge. Yeah, she has to be biased. She knows who her boss is.
Microsoft. Privacy though?
From a privacy perspective, it's hard for me to say. I mean, all of them have a lot of privacy options you can turn on or off. I think Google, by default, perhaps has the most privacy encroaching things that are turned on in Chrome by default, but not by much. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying this is a mile-wide difference. I'm saying we're talking, a few settings options here or there. Edge, for all intents and purposes, since it is the newest browser, since it has a lot of security-minded engineering that went into it, if you look at some of the articles out there, Edge is actually doing very, very well from a security perspective in terms of blocking attacks and also being a fast browser and just an overall clean experience. So if you're very security conscious, Edge is probably a pretty good bet because there's not any malware out there that I know of right now that can attack this browser as long as you have a decent antivirus program on your machine. So from that perspective, Edge is a pretty good browser from a security standpoint. The problem with Edge still, and that a lot of people gripe about it, is that there is not the ability yet to put in extensions. Extensions are those fancy things that allow you to use like LastPass or an ad blocker or any of the other things from like the Google Chrome store, the Firefox store. Edge does not have that capability just yet. It's coming out later this year, but it's just not ready yet. So if you are very dependent on a lot of browser extensions in your browser and care about that, Edge is not for you, and you shouldn't use it yet. So you're going to have to hold off a little bit. But it's going to get there in a couple months. Go ahead.
So do you get a lot of pop-up ads with Edge if it doesn't have the advertising?
Well, a default pop-up blocker is still built into it, so it does a pretty decent job from blocking that. What I mean is advertising, like ads on web pages. There's a thing for Chrome you can use called ad block. Like if I go to a website,
Remove the pop-up blockers, right?
you don't know. It's not a matter of removing them. So I just want to show you, for example, like if I go on news.com with Edge advertising shows, if I go into it through Google Chrome, because I have this little extension here in the upper right-hand corner, you can hardly see it, but it's called ad block. It goes ahead, and what it does is block advertising. Okay.
Okay.
So you can get this, and if you look at here, where an advertisement was showing an Edge here with this Xfinity junk, my news.com here is clean, and I've got no advertising.
Got it.
So again, this is a temporary problem. This is going to change as soon as Microsoft opens the ability for that to be on there and opens that up. But for the time being, that is one area where Edge can't compete yet. Go ahead.
Those of you who are hypersensitive about security issues, if you really are worried about it, you want to search the internet for whatever else.
DuckDuckGo.
Huh?
DuckDuckGo.
No, just go get another computer, put Windows 10 on it, put a fake
Yeah.
name in it. Then you don't have to.
Says the one who has 19 computers.
23.
23 computers. For the average person, as long as you're okay with some limited advertising, and most people browse the advertising now, which doesn't make it that big of a deal, you'll still have to deal with ads in Edge. But here's two things that Edge can do that none of the other browsers yet can do as far as I know. So I'm going to show you two features that it actually does a very good job in. The first feature is an option called reading mode. So reading mode is something where it can take a news article that otherwise, let's go into one here, for example, this Netflix you got explaining to do in here. And it's got a lot of graphics on it. It's got menu bars. It's got social sharing buttons showing over here. It's very busy. And compared to when you read something in a newspaper or a magazine and you've got a very clean reading experience, unfortunately, websites, because they have to advertise, it's not as clean as it could be. Well, Edge said, not any longer. We can read with peace by using this option called Reading View. So on the upper right-hand part of the address bar here, you'll see this option that says Reading View. If I hit this button, a little bit of magic works behind the scenes, and voila, it turns into a magazine article for me. So now I can read in peace without being obstructed by any advertising or menu bars or other junk that I just don't care about. And I can go into Reading View, and I can leave Reading View with just clicking that button and go back into traditional website browsing view if I wanted to. So Reading View is a very handy feature. If you're someone that reads a lot of news articles or long articles on the web, Reading View is almost indispensable for getting a nice, clean reading experience. And what's also nice is that this is printer friendly as well. You can print it, it'll show nicely on a printed out document as well with none of the junk and menus and buttons and all the other stuff that you see on the website normally. So that's called Reading View, and again, that's something Firefox and Chrome, as far as I know, do not have in terms of a feature right now. Okay? Another thing that Edge can do that the other browsers can't do is something called annotation view. I can take any website I want, no matter what it has on it, and I can write over it with my mouse or my finger or my pen if I have a pen input screen connected to my computer. So what does that look like? So say I am researching something on Wikipedia. If I could spell. I went on Wikipedia and I was, here we go, reading an article about Winnipeg, and I needed to do a little bit of markup on this, either to save it for my own purposes, or I wanted to go ahead and mark this up and send it to someone. What would we do before? We'd print this out, because it's so hard to do on the computer. You'd print this out, you'd write all over it, you'd put it in your scanner, you'd scan it, and then you'd email it to someone. Well, how cumbersome is that? And in light of what this does, it's pretty old school in that regard. Edge has a new feature called Annotation View that lets me go ahead and turn this into an actual notebook screen. So if I'm on the web page and I want to say go ahead and mark up this article here right now, where it is, I can go into this little button here where it says make a web note. Annotation View, make a web note, it's the same thing. If I click on that, it brings up a toolbar now, and now I'm in editing mode. And this uses the power of Microsoft OneNote to let me annotate this web page for myself. I can turn on my little highlighter on the upper left-hand corner from my menu bar, choose my highlighter, and I can highlight sentences, whatever I want. In this article, I can choose back to my red pen and go ahead and put, hey, that was the box, that was the photo I really wanted you to see right over there. I can erase that if I wanted to, or again, add different colored annotations into my article as I want. So again, a full interface to go ahead and mark up this document, and this saves me the paper, the ink, the pen time of having to mark this up on paper and then scan it back in. This gives me a nice digital copy that I can go ahead and snip this out and copy into an email. This is what I do most often than not. I'll go ahead and choose this option here that lets me snip out what I want, and maybe just this is what I take and send to someone. And if I was writing an email, what I would get, I'm going to simulate this in Microsoft Word as a poor man's version of an email. But if I paste it in, there's my web note. Fully annotated, exactly what was on that page, and how long would it have taken to get that same snippet into an email before?
That's cool.
Very difficult, very time consuming. This is pretty much what, 3 clicks it took, and I've got to copy and paste with my markup and my things I wanted to highlight.
So do you need Microsoft 10 to do this?
This is only Windows 10, yeah. You can't do this. And actually, it's not Windows 10, it's actually Microsoft Edge. It's the web browser.
So can you get the browser if you don't?
Cannot get the browser anything but Windows 10. Windows 10 is the only one that allows you to use Edge.
Wow.
So there's your other reason to upgrade.
Yeah.
But it's pretty neat. And I can go back to my web page. I can say I'm all done with that. and I can go ahead, I can exit out, and it takes away all the annotation, and I'm back to my normal web page view for myself. Go ahead.
If you're using Yahoo or Google Mail, will that work with this, or do you have to be doing it?
It should work with it, because all it does when you cut your snippet out, so let me go back into that. I go back in annotation view. I had something highlighted over here. I'm going to go ahead and choose a snippet. It says drag to copy region, so I'm going to copy out what I want it to copy. That pretty much copied it to my clipboard. As long as Yahoo or whatever email service you use allows you to copy and paste with your keyboard or your mouse button by right-clicking, this will copy in. So it's not a limitation of Windows or the email service, it's a limitation of whether they allow you to copy and paste into it. Most services these days do allow you to do that though, so shouldn't be a big deal. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and save this. If I wanted to save this annotation for something I was researching or for the long haul for some reason, I can go ahead and save it. And I can go ahead and add it as a bookmarked item in my reading list in Edge. I can save it as a bookmark favorite. Or I can push it out to OneNote, which is that program I was talking about a little earlier. It's like a digital notebook program. And I can go ahead and save it to there. View my note. And then I could just print directly from here if I wanted to. So there's my annotated page right within OneNote. And I can go ahead and choose and print right from there if I wanted to go ahead and print that out. Change it to landscape view, and there's my little annotated page. So pretty cool. It's nice to push it to OneNote because, again, if you want to manipulate it further, if you wanted to do more markup on it or add other notes to it, OneNote is the tool to do that, because then I can go ahead, I can add more text below that of what I was doing in terms of that research, or, again, it's up to your heart's content. I use OneNote when we do training a lot in our conference room. As you can see here, we were doing some network training at one point, and this is stuff I scribbled up on our touchscreen in our conference room. So all that stuff I save into my OneNote, and it's one big growing notebook of stuff of everything that I touch in my digital life. So pretty neat in that regard.
Can I just, are you going to go into emails at all?
I'm not going to go into email. It's not really something I want to
Okay, so
spend
you
much
see
time
how
on.
you had that thing on there with the printing?
Yes.
When you're in the email, it's really hard to print something. Is there a trick?
To printing something in the mail app?
Yeah.
You mean the Windows 10 mail application? Is that the one that you're using?
Yeah, well,
I don't use it day to day, so I couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
I could probably lead you to a web article that may give you a little more insight into that.
Okay.
But I just don't have it configured right now to show a live demo of it, so I wouldn't be able to lend much insight right now. I'm not using it because I do most of my email over a webmail interface.
Okay.
So I go to Outlook.com and I just view it from there.
Okay.
Or my business email, so I don't use that.
Okay.
I probably should be using it more, but I'm ingrained in my ways in some things, and it's tough for me to change on some items. Yes.
Speaking of Outlook, which I have on my work
Yes.
computer, is there a way to password protect it? Because once you open up your computer, anyone can get into Outlook. You know what I'm saying?
There is a way to do that. I can probably, or Austin can probably answer that at the end of class. It's a separate item we can bring up. Okay. So again, that's Microsoft Edge. Other than that, it's a good web browser. It's very fast. It's winning a lot of awards in terms of speed and security. But again, to my eyes, it's still a little bit crippled because it can't do extensions. As soon as those are allowed in later this year, I think this browser is really going to start picking up pace. So
will this web browser Edge block out things like Dark Soul and Night Dragon?
What are those?
Those are these are the spy viruses that hit Sony and some of the military institutions that were making bids to the government for.
I'll say this: it's got a very good amount of security underpinnings put into it. There's no program that can guarantee you won't be hit with some nasty thing down the road. There's no way to guarantee that.
Wow.
There never has been. You can only do your best of be cognizant of where you're browsing. Make sure that you're using a modern, secure web browser. Make sure you've got good, strong antivirus like ESET on your machine, and that's about as good as you're going to be able to do. But there's no such thing as a 100% guarantee.
Okay.
That's as close as you're going to get to 99.5% security. Go ahead.
Is there anything that the user should do to assure good cooperation between, say, if he has Norton, Norton Internet Security, whatever, and Windows 10? Should the user be cognizant of any settings to make these things work properly?
Any kind of interoperability settings that are needed, the manufacturer of the security program is building into the program, so you don't have to worry about that.
So it'll automatically turn off things in Windows 10 if they need to.
Correct.
Be turned off.
So anytime you have a proper manufacturer provided Security Suite, you'll notice that Windows Defender always gets turned off. Windows Firewall will get turned off, and that's how it's supposed to
And
work.
apparently Windows is okay with that as long as it sees that the antivirus.
That's the way it was designed and made to work. If you don't have any security program you purchase,
It'll tell you.
it's going to leave the base level Windows Defender turned on. If you have something, Windows says, "Hey, you're good to go. You've met the security check mark. We'll shut off the stuff we put on
And
here."
if there's a problem with your security software, for example, it doesn't start or something, you would get a message saying your antivirus is not running.
It will notify you. Yeah, it's going to notify you in the little Action Center over here, as you notice on the right-hand side. I did not bring up the Action Center yet. I probably should have mentioned it, but that's this little icon on the bottom right-hand corner. It's looks like a little notification pop-up. And if you click on that, you'll get security notifications that come in here. If you have the mail app connected, it'll show you new emails. So it's just like on your phone, your latest items area that shows on your phone. This is that for your computer. So you can go ahead and see all those things showing up on there. You can clear the list off if you've read all those items. So that's where those notifications would show up for you. Okay?
What is the browser? Could you repeat this? Eastern browser?
Edge, Microsoft Edge.
No, the before.
ESET is the security product I was talking about. So let me finish off. I got one last section here that'll knock out in about 7 minutes or so. It won't take very long. Just a few of the productivity things that if you're using a machine for work purposes, probably you'd be most interested in. First thing that is introduced in Windows 10, or is done, this was actually in Windows 8 as well, but it was kind of wonky in Windows 8. It's gotten a lot better in Windows 10, is Snap to Edge. And this is very useful if you're using one big screen or multiple screens on your computer. You can go ahead and easily divide up screen real estate for programs based upon where you want to place them on your screen. So, for example, if I wanted to have my Chrome browser, my little presentation window here, take up the right-hand side of my screen, I can go ahead and drag that window all the way to the right-hand side, and you'll see the little translucent rectangle that shows. Do you see that? It's a little hard to see because it's white on white, but there's a little rectangle that shows, and it'll then bring it up to the right-hand side of my screen. Now it asks me, hey, what do you want to have on the left 50% side of your screen? I want to bring up, and we'll have my little phone screen over here. Not a great example, but again, I can do 50%, 50%. I can choose to do quadrants. I can do upper right-hand side. So I can do that. I can then bring up this and go bottom left-hand side or bottom right-hand side for myself. Oh, I screwed that up. Let's bring up Word. Bottom right-hand side, and then I can do this over here. So I can get very crafty. So before, again, if you have a need to stack up windows for yourself because you're researching something and typing an email, and maybe you got your music player playing on one side, before it was always a little bit of a game of move everything to the exact right spot. You don't have to do that anymore, because when you move the items to the edges or to the corners of your screen, Microsoft knows, hey, you want to stack that. You want to do a 25%, 25%, and it automatically will guide you and let you drag it and drop it into a section of the screen. So not everyone uses this. It may not be handy for everyone, but if you only have one screen you're working with and you got a lot of things you want to stack, this is so much easier than the way you have to do it, which was all manually. Move it over here, move this over here, size it right. Microsoft does the sizing for you now automatically. Okay? Virtual desktops. This is a new feature that was introduced in Windows 10. If you are ever or have ever been a Mac user, Mac has had this for quite a few years, so Microsoft's a little bit late to the game in terms of virtual desktops. But it does exist now. It's a pretty neat functionality. And what it is basically saying, hey, if you've got one single desktop right now that you wanted to reserve just for writing your paper, so maybe this was the screen that I was using to write my article on Winnipeg, Canada, and I wanted to open up a different set of windows on another virtual screen. Before, the only way to do this is you had to have a second computer monitor or a third computer monitor. For some people, it's nice. I still use two screens. It's very beneficial. I recommend it if you can do it. But if you can't do that, the little bit easier way to get by with having screens with different sets of things open is by using the virtual desktop. So for example, I want to leave my Microsoft Word open on this screen. I can go ahead and then choose this little icon over here. That icon I was saying, we're going to get to this later. It's called Task View. This will go ahead and bring up all my virtual desktops. Well, I shouldn't have these open. Those were probably previous demos. But I can go ahead and if I have no virtual desktops open, on the bottom right-hand corner, you see where it says New Desktop? If I click on that, it'll bring up a whole new desktop for me. I can go ahead and then go back to my desktop. Well, let me go back in here. Back to desktop 1 highlighted here. And I can move over a program to my other desktop. So say, for example, I wanted to read my news.com from here, from my first screen. I can hold on to it, drag it, dump it on desktop 2. So now I can go ahead and have this open while I have Word open on this desktop. So it's a neat way of having different, I guess, workspaces. Imagine it being different tabletops. You had your main desk where you were working on your paper. You had another desk to your side with this stuff spread out, and you had another desk on this side. That's all virtual desktops is. Multiple table spaces that you can use to get different things done. So I could open up another desktop to maybe play my music off of and control music on a full screen without interfering in what's going on another desktop.
Can you have them snap to edge and basically have small, reduced size versions of them?
Can't do that yet, no. That may come in the future. It's actually something I haven't heard of yet, but it's a good suggestion. But no, you can't do that by default. You actually have to switch between the different desktops to get to the different things.
It could be a handy way to work with, say, if you have multiple spreadsheets and you want to work one to the other, that might be one.
For something like that, you want multiple computer screens next to each other. You still that kind of thing, unless you're willing to scroll back and forth between them. I mean, you can, but I think for time's sake, you probably want to have 2 open, 1 on each computer screen for yourself.
And
so
how many,
that still is not going to be faster.
And how many monitors will Windows 10, say Pro Edition, is it dependent on the driver, or will it is just up to 2 monitors?
It's dependent always on the computer manufacturer.
Right.
Who made the computer. That's going to determine, based upon how many video cards you have, based on how many output ports, that's always your limiting factor. Windows can take as many as your computer will throw at it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sometimes when I download audio files off of the internet, you'll get one song and then you'll like a series of 5 or 10 songs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to do it on Windows 7 or 8, but does Windows 10 have a way to
what?
Just have you start and it'll just keep playing each song? Because otherwise it'll just stop and then you have to go back and start the next song.
I haven't, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a playlist setting.
Okay.
That sounds like a continue on setting within the media player. I don't listen to much music outside of Pandora, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how that works. You'd either want to find out if the built-in media player can do it, or get a third-party bona fide media player like VLC, which is like can do everything you can imagine to do that. So that's an app-specific question, not a Windows limitation. So again, if I was done with the desktop, if I didn't want to have that desktop 2 for myself, and if I scroll over with my mouse after I'm going into this button here, so I have my 2 desktops, I scroll over it shows me what's on desktop 2, shows me what's on desktop 1. If I close out my second desktop, everything just comes back to my original desktop for me, so I didn't lose anything. As you saw, my news.com screen was on desktop 2, and this little recording thing was there. These all came back now, and they're all on my first desktop for me. So it's not like you'll lose whatever you had open, it's just going to combine it down to your original desktop once you close out. Okay? And again, if I had 2 desktops open, I didn't show this. If I had a second desktop I made, I'll go back, open up my Word, bring it over to desktop 2, and I'll move this over to desktop 2 as well. I can move things between the desktops. So if I move the item over here, and now it's working off this desktop for me, I can go back into here, and I can take that item and drag it back and put it back on desktop 1. Ba-boom. Ba-boom, and we should be fine. This can't move. This is a recording tool, so this doesn't count as a program that's open on that desktop. That just has to be there for me. And I can close out of the desktop, and I'm back on my single desktop. So it's a little bit, you know, it takes a little getting used to. You may have no use for it. I just wanted to show you, in case you're more of a business user or productivity user, as that probably will come in handy in those situations. Okay? And the final last thing on my agenda was just a few keyboard shortcuts that were introduced in Windows 10 and how they look now. If I do Windows key plus tab, you'll see that I get my full task view screen, and I can switch between my full screen view of my app I have open or choose another item that I want so I can quickly find. If you have a lot of different websites open or a lot of different programs open, this is probably the easiest way to find them as opposed to finding them on the bottom part of your screen. So that's the Windows key plus tab. And this is on the back of the agenda. You don't have to write this down. I already wrote these out for you. So they're already there. Alt plus tab on your keyboard brings up a similar kind of screen, but you can kind of scroll through one by one to a different item and change between them. Some people are more keyboard driven, like to do it in that manner, so you can change with Alt plus tab for yourself. Windows key plus control, and then left and right on your arrow keys. I'll show you what that does. I'll actually have to have, it's for virtual desktop. So if I had another desktop open for myself, I can switch between a second desktop. So if I did Windows key control, left and right, I can go back and forth between my different desktops. So for those of you interested in virtual desktops, this might be something that would be helpful for you. And then Windows key and then left and right, you can go ahead and change the position. Hold on, let's see if this works. Yeah, so you can move into left side, right corner, so you can change the screen position of an open program to the different corners very simply by holding the Windows key and going left and right on the keyboard. So as you'll see, it's hopping around and then it kind of got minimized on me. So that's that. Again, those are things you have to try. It's hard for me to demonstrate because then you have to kind of feel and see what happens as you do it. So I just wanted to give you an idea of how to do it, but the keyboard shortcuts are written out so you can try it on your own machine later on when you get home. So we have a few minutes before noon. I will definitely stay a little bit over to answer questions, but I wanted to open it up for Q&A for a little bit and see what you guys were curious about. What kind of questions do you have about Windows 10? Boy, I've answered everything. I did a great job today. Go ahead.
Is Windows 7 and 8 ever going to be shut down or non-supported like they did the XP?
So the same, well, Microsoft didn't do anything different with XP than they're going to do with 7 and 8. What's going to happen is they're going to be a sunset date of the last day it's going to get supported updates. For Windows 7, I think that's 2020 that's going to happen. So we have a few more years left on Windows 7. Once that happens, you can keep using it, but as Microsoft says, you're on your own after that date. You get no more updates, you get no more security patches. If wild malware comes out that targets a vulnerability in that operating system, they're not going to do anything for you unless you have an expensive corporate contract with them. So, okay, go ahead.
To add to that, I had read recently that they're actually phasing out Windows 7 in 2 steps. The one you just described where everything is done. But before,
that's the final step?
Right. And then before
there's a step before it.
I think in 2018 or very soon, actually, the actual updates for how
feature updates. Feature updates always stop before security updates. Security updates are the last thing to go. Feature updates are the ones that get cut off a few years beforehand, as sort of a warning sign that, hey, start making your move off of this operating system.
So if you have a 5-year-old computer, you may, if you decide to elect to run it until 2020, you may just want to keep it on Windows 7 if you're satisfied.
If that's what you want to keep, by all means. There's nothing saying that you can't stay with it. It's just Microsoft's going to start kind of creeping in and saying, hey, it's time to start thinking about a new machine.
Right. We wouldn't want to, most people wouldn't want to run without the security updates.
Of course, yeah. Would not recommend running a machine without security updates, yeah. Go ahead.
The Skype.
What about Skype?
Now, is it running the same as the Windows 7 and
So currently Microsoft's in a little transition phase. There's going to be a modern Windows Store Skype version that's going to come out a little bit later this year, and that's what's going to replace the desktop version. So like the traditional version that you install from Skype.com, and you got to go through the installation process. Right. So until the Windows Store version's ready, that's the one you have to keep using for now. But it works the same way. It has all the functionality. So it's going to be no different than what you're going to get once it moves to a modern application.
Now the whole thing is so intimidating. Now,
intimidating?
Yes. I had Windows 10 on the laptop, on the desktop, and I just put it in the Windows 7 because it's much easier to start for me and everything. Same thing with the power off. You don't have log off anymore. You just have shut off, and that's it. So you don't know if
there actually is log off. There's a hidden menu I didn't talk about. But if you right click on the start button, you get a secret menu that comes up. This is kind of like the techie menu. I use this all the time. This is where you can get the sign out option from over here. Yes, I agree. They've moved a few things around, but you know the way I tell people, it's all about familiarity. What are you familiar with? If you're familiar with Windows 7 and have been using it for 6 years, of course you're going to be more familiar with it. But as you start using Windows 10, I use it day to day. I've been on it now for like 8 months. Windows 7 for me is now becoming unfamiliar because I'm on Windows 10 all the time. So it's all a matter of what you're using on a day-to-day basis. You're going to become familiar with it as you use it, just like anything. Riding the new bike, or driving that new car, using the new Windows 10. It's no different.
I think actually you can also click on your name at the top of the start when you to log out as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. Yeah, good one. I use the right-click option because it's got the whole.
Click on the
extra
name. Where is the name?
Oh, the name is up here. I'll show you. It's on the upper left of the start menu here. So I go back here, right-click.
Oh.
Or left click. I think it's even left click you can do. Yeah, left and right click is the same thing, so I can do sign out from there.
Sign out.
So it is there. It's just in a different spot, as we said. So I learned something new right there.
I have a question. When you buy these computers,
Yeah.
do they come with directions in the box?
Almost no computer comes with a manual in the box.
I know, why is
They're in PDF. They're in digital documents that you can get from the manufacturer, and those replace the full 300-page manual we used to get. So.
Yeah, do you have to print it out yourself?
But in terms of a Windows 10, if you're talking about like a Windows 10 manual, you'd probably have to look at some kind of a book that is made by a third party.
A book?
A book, yeah. A book.
Yeah, it's over here.
There are a lot of books coming out that go through all the Windows 10 features and all that.
No,
So.
I was like surprised that there was no book with it. I'm like, how do they expect you to know everything?
And honestly, I don't think Microsoft's going to make a book. And I'll be honest with you, because Windows 10 is changing so fast and rapidly, if they publish a book today, it's out of date in 3 months.
Okay, good.
So it's really hard from that perspective to make a book out of it.
That makes it hard for us to buy them.
Makes it hard for them to buy them because they become out of date so fast.
So you would get the basics of what, whenever that book was published, that would get you through lots of things, and then you take it the next step, and you let the device teach you. You look up the information, like you were asking Cortana.
Come to a class like this and seeing it firsthand, then trying it with your own computer at home based off what we learned and on the video that I'm going to post the recording of. And then through day-to-day usage. And if you still need more help, finding a specific help guide, we do one-on-one training with new users all the time as well. We'll come out and walk you through certain things you're looking to do. So there is an end to the tunnel of figuring it out. Well,
no.
For the things you want to do, there's always an end. Yes.
Your phone. Do you have to have an app for your phone to access your phone on the Windows 10?
If you want to do what I was doing with that, it's a free program called Project My Screen, but it only works with Windows Phone. So if you have an Android iPhone, it's not going to do you much good. But I mean, it's only for demonstrating things on a Windows Phone where you can get this. So it's really Microsoft specific.
Is this why you prefer the Windows Phone now over the others?
Not this projection thing only. I mean, it's nice to be able to train off of it.
Well, you had said at the beginning of today's presentation.
I like it because I find the tiled interface, the way you can change and resize tiles, much nicer than the way Android and iPhone do it, where it's one size fits all and it's just a bunch of dumped icons. To me, it looks like a Palm Pilot from 1996. So I like the way that you can resize and add tiles and make them bigger or smaller. I just think it's a more modern, cleaner interface. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we're drawing for raffle. So. I've got 5 giveaways. They're all the same. Unfortunately, my swag from all my companies that we work with, they've been they haven't been as generous with us recently, but I've got some goodies from our own stock. I've got everyone that wins, you'll get a FireLogic notepad, a flash drive. They're actually pretty good flash drives. We don't buy junk. And 20% off coupon for any of our services. So you can use it, you can give it to a family member. It doesn't matter. But everyone that wins walks away with something decent.
Do they have an expiration date?
What's that?
Coupon have an expiration.
Expires at the end of calendar year. Yeah. Go ahead. What's that? 4 gigs. Good enough for most people. Are just throwing a few documents on there. So.
What's the charge for a house phone?
Our house call, we go by hourly rate. We're a flat $95 an hour for work, 1 hour minimum, and then we bill in 15-minute increments after that. So a lot of things we tell people come to our office because then we don't have a travel charge in any way, and you can work with us at the office, and it's a lot easier because we have all the tools and everything necessary, whereas if we go out for a house call, it's just more difficult to bring the office to you. So.
Do you have a services where you take off the computer and you do it or no?
To do what? To clean it or to upgrade
no,
it?
everything. Just
We can do anything related to a computer. You just have to ask.
So you just go to your phone.
Does anyone have a sign-in sheet or a raffle sheet that they didn't enter yet? If you haven't entered, you're not going to win. So. And if you're not here, you ain't winning. So we're rejoin for any early leavers. All right. Joseph Mattis. Come on up.
You are a winner.
You are a winner. You can hand it to him. Keep it drawing here. All right, we got one. 4 more to go. Marlon Talion. Marlon Tarian. Marion Talion. Must have left. So sad.
Yeah.
Must be present to win.
Yeah, he must be present to win. Edward Phillips. There you go. Flash drive. Thank you for coming out. Teresa McNally.
Wow.
2 more to go. See how lucky we are. Rita Calera. And the lucky last person to leave here a winner is going to be Joyce. And Joyce A. Leave it at that. All right. There you go. If you have any other further questions, one-on-one that you want to ask with Austin or myself, I'm going to stop the recording, start cleaning up. You can come up and ask me. I'll be more than glad to talk to you one-on-one, okay? Thank you again for coming out, everyone.
Thank you, that was great.